من نعمته ورحمته وبركته من الآن وإلى الأبد آمين.
Okay. Should I start, Abuna?
Yeah.
Okay. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Thank you for having me today, guys. It's nice to see some familiar faces, but because I know I kind of talked to you guys in other services about child development, I'm going to try to change this one up so it's not repetitive. But Abuna asked for me to speak to you all about different ages and stages and how that might relate to service. It's nice to see Julie and Jesse. How are you?
Hi, Todd.
Nobody wants to show faces, huh? Okay. Hi, Rahim. Hi, Mary. Hi, Bishoy.
Except me.
I know, and me. Okay, let me see here. Not sure what this is. Hold on one second. What is happening? Let me stop sharing for just a second and try it again. Might have to do it like this, right? Yeah. Like that. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I can make you the host.
It's okay. I think I can. I just need to get back to share. I'm sorry, one second. I think I got it this time. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know how to use an Apple.
Yes, okay, we see it.
Okay. Thanks for your patience. All right. So just these few slides to go through. I thought we could talk today because I think I'm doing 3 different sessions with you all. So I thought we could start with just basic things that are pertinent to you. So when we're working with different ages, different children, it's important to know what their attention span can handle so I don't go over their limit. And when we go over their limit, Taban, you know, they're going to be exhausted, they're tired. They might have, you know, act out, they might start moving around. You've already lost their attention. So this is kind of a nice little breakdown about how long a lesson should take. So 2 years old, they have the attention span of about 5 minutes, right? So it's not very long. At 4, they double that. At 6, you have about 12 to 18 minutes. I say 15 minutes per 6-year-old. So that's what your first grade class, your kindergarten class. And so that's not to say in your Sunday school class or your service after 15 minutes. It just means you're going to have to take a break before you go on to the next you know, lesson or Bible verse or switch it up with a song or implement different things in. But their attention span is 15 minutes, then they need a break. Then you can go back into something else. At 8 years old, that starts to extend a little bit to 20 minutes. At 10, you have about half an hour, and 12 is roughly a little over half an hour too. So just keep that in mind when you're building your lesson plans and you know, your Sunday school stories and all that stuff. Let me try to see if I can make this a little bit bigger. It's harder to see. But this, I might have to just send this to Abuna to send you guys. I don't think I can make it bigger. I'm sorry. But just to tell you what it has on there is basically just attention span also. If you look, I don't know if you can see it. I'm sorry, I can't make it any bigger. But a lot of research is showing that our attention span is getting shorter and shorter. And a lot of that is because of, we're using more digital resources. And so that impacts the way our brain is being wired. And so if you are using apps like TikToks or Reels or things like that, they're very short skits, some of them 30 seconds, some of them are, 3 minutes, but they go really quickly. And then the more you, kind of swipe to the next one, your attention span is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So your frustration is growing. Your frustration tolerance gets smaller and smaller and smaller as well, meaning that you tolerate less. And so people get more irritable. People get more short and angry with each other when they haven't seen it. Some of the research just in the last 15 years is saying that the average attention span is actually decreasing by 12 seconds. So I think that's since 2000 is what it says. So that's pretty that's big, because in my age group, when we were growing up, we were told the attention span is about 45 minutes, and we had 50-minute classes. And now we are being recommended that classes should be 30 minutes or less. And then you change classes like in middle school and high school. So just something to keep in mind. Our attention span is getting smaller because of the digital world that we live in. So, and then this is just something about the different, we'll do emotional and psychological development today, and we can do physiological development another time. But this is in the infant stages. So as a child is born and all the way up to about age 1, they are learning how to trust. And if they feel that they can count on their caregivers, like their mother, their father, their grandmother, or those around them, the baby can't speak, a baby can't do much. They rely on mom to feed them, change them, hug them, nurture them, make them feel safe. So if they have those connections with their parents or their caregivers from early on, they learn to trust, and then they can go on to the next stage, right? And it's like a stepping ladder. But if a baby has, a lot of times we get bad advice, I think, and they say, Khalil, the baby cry it out. And that has been shown that it actually has psychological problems later, because what the baby is doing is not learning to self-soothe on their own. The baby is learning that there's no hope, and that turns into mistrust and depression and anxiety later, because they're learning that they can't rely on anyone around them. So if you have those young moms in your class and somebody tells them, don't carry your baby, let them cry it out. Actually, now you can tell them, actually, that's not good for them. Okay, the next one is the toddler stage. This is like age 2, and 3 and 4. And this is a fun age because does anybody know what a 2-year-old, the first words they tend to use very often is? No? No is actually the word. So they learn no very quickly. They like to use it. They like to try to see if they have control over their world. And this is that terrible twos age. So in this stage, they're learning, they're not trying to give you a difficult time. They're just learning to have control over their environment, control over their movements, control over their world. And they're learning that, they're practicing that. So again, if they, can succeed, they pass on to the next stage. If not, they kind of get stumped into this stage. And you'll notice that a lot of the 2-year-olds, they might kind of step away from their mom and they go and they do something and then they come back and then they step away and they come back and they like that security that the parent is there waiting for them, but that they're allowed to go out kind of two pews over and discover the world around them. And that's how they start to learn control over their environment. But if we are too cautious as parents or as servants, and we scare them and we start to give them ideas that frighten them to prevent them from exploring the world around them, again, this is an area where they can start to develop a lot of anxiety and depression later in life. So it's important to kind of encourage them and empower them to go, but be careful, look out for this. And I'm here for you when you get back. And that's how they become autonomous and succeed and move on to the next stage, which is initiative versus guilt. So this is your kindergarten class. They are starting to learn to take initiative. They're starting to, create and do things on their own. This is where if they're coloring something in Sunday school, or cutting something out and they want to show you, look what I did, look, mom, look, Tante, look. This is where they're looking for that positive feedback and encouragement, like, good job, that's so great. So keep that in mind, because if they are encouraged and empowered to go, they go on successfully to the next stage. But if they're constantly getting feedback that is negative without enough positive feedback, then they get stuck in this guilt, I'm not good enough, kind of mentality. Are you guys good with me so far? I don't see your faces, so I just want to make sure you're okay. And then in the blue stage here is industry versus inferiority. So this is kind of moving into fourth, fifth grade age. They're starting to produce more, do more. They have more knowledge. They're able to have more responsibilities. And as they get older, it's good to give them chores or a responsibility, even in your Sunday school class. It makes them feel empowered and, again, responsible, and that they can do and achieve. And if they aren't encouraged in such a way, then what it could result in is feeling inferior to others. This is an important spot because the next stage is their identity versus role confusion. And in these teenage years, this is like maybe middle school years, this is where a lot of the how do I identify self-identity stuff comes in. And for our culture, this is an age where children start to wonder, well, am I Egyptian or am I American? What's my culture? How do I identify? Maybe they reject their Egyptian culture, or maybe they're rejecting the American culture, or maybe they're rejecting the church, or maybe they're resisting against something else, or their gender, or their nationality. Whatever it is, they're kind of learning more about their identity. And at this stage, the identity it should be solidified, but it goes back to the early stages as well. So remember when we talked about in the pink and purple stage, autonomy versus shame, initiative versus guilt. If I'm not feeling secure about myself along the way, I'm going to have a lot of difficulty with my identity. And what ends up happening is, if by this stage I'm not secure in who I am as a person, not only does it, cause anxiety, but there's a lot of role confusion as well. Sometimes they will often, today I'm emo and I'm dressing all black, but tomorrow I'm rock and roll. And next day I'm in hip hop. The next day I'm, speaking Arabic all the time and I'm in touch with my Egyptian culture. And they tend to go from, one group to another and just kind of chameleon until they feel like they've connected with someone. All along these lines, it doesn't mean that, if you don't pass to the next stage, that you are stuck there forever. It just means it gets harder the longer you're stuck in a stage. But eventually you can go to the next stage if you can get past some of those thoughts and healing. As you go to the next stage, it gets a little bit more complex psychologically. The next stage is your young adult years, and this is called intimacy versus isolation, meaning the young adults, like college age. Now this is an age where they're, looking for romantic relationships, looking to get married, looking to, throw down roots. Oftentimes, as they're dating and getting to know, myself in the relationship and my partner in a relationship, well, maybe everyone around me is getting into relationships, but I'm not in a relationship. So now I might be isolating myself because all the couples are going out together, or all my friends are busy with their, couples. But I don't have a partner, and then I might start to isolate. So this can be a tough, period psychologically as well. And then as you get older, these are middle age adult years, and as we get much older, the last stage is integrity versus despair. So oftentimes, and this is really important because in our church, it's important that we are a church of discipleship, and we hand things down from generation to generation. And it's because of the older servants and the wiser servants, the experienced servants, the seasoned servants. They have passed traditions on to us. And sometimes as young youth, we are ready and excited to get in and do things. You guys are old school, let's do it this way. But this isn't, a service you can do just by standing next to someone and encourage them and asking them to teach you something, because they're going through this stage of integrity versus despair. Have I taught, you know, have I done enough in my life? Is, um, is it time to retire? Am I, not good for anything at this point anymore? If I'm retiring and I'm, leaving the service, خلاص الشباب جاي, they're going to take over, then I start to feel like I'm not needed, and that can make me feel uncomfortable or sad. And so by, lifting them up with a nice encouraging, like, Uncle, can you go over this hymn with me again? Or asking an older tons maybe, like, how did you handle Sunday school class when you had this situation? It makes them feel like they have some wisdom and experience to share with you, and that adds to their integrity. So keep that in mind, because the older servants do have a lot that they can share with us, and they have a lot of wisdom that we shouldn't take for granted. And yes, it's important to have the youth involved and the new generation to come forward, because then there's no future, right? If we don't have that discipleship. But it's that balance between respecting the experience and respecting the new ways of doing things as well. So these are just the different psychological stages of development.
Yeah, one question, please. About the industry versus inferiority. What is the meaning of industry in this?
Yeah. So this gentleman, Mr. Eric Erickson, he was a psychologist, and he um, felt like this is the time where kids they get very creative, they produce a lot of things. This is where they're starting to play sports. So it's the act of doing. They're very industrious. And so as they learn these new skills, like in sports or in art class or music, whatever gift or talent that they are industrious in, as they develop these skills, they can be good and confident in that, maybe even if I'm not good enough, I can continue to learn and move forward. Or they can start to feel like, they're inferior to others around them, and kind of step back. If they're on a soccer team and they don't feel like they're good enough, they might, and sitting the bench, and maybe they won't come back the next season, for example. So this is important stage to encourage them that even if they're not like their peers, that there's still room for growth and everybody's learning, and kind of encourage them to move to the next stage. Don't necessarily look to quit. Try to encourage them. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last one for tonight, this is just like a pyramid model of the most important things that we need in life. At the very bottom is your, at the very least, you just need your water, your food, your safety, your security, your sleep, right? On top of that, you need, again, the psychological model. Like if I don't have food, I can't think about, you know, the problems going on in the world and the prejudice that are happening in the world, or my homework that's due tomorrow, right? I just basic needs first. So it's just something that's important to know about that. The red here is the measure of security. You need to feel safe in your body, that you're not being abused, or there's violence towards you in some way, or being bullied, that you have a job, that you have your health and your family, and all these things are good in that security blanket as well. The next layer is, okay, now that I have sleep, I have food, shelter over my head, I'm working, I have my family, I have my health, I can start to think about my friendships and my, relationships, and feeling loved and belonged. And then the next layer on that is, once these things are good, that helps in achieving the level of confidence and your relationship with others, and how you perceive others and how others perceive you. And then the last layer of security on top is that, moral good, the problem solving, the let me be part of a better future, a better tomorrow, stopping prejudice, and being a good member of society. So these are kind of like this pyramids of psychological basic needs. And that's it, guys. That's it. So basic needs first. So sometimes, when you have kids in your class who maybe have come from homes who their parents are more violent or abusive, and you're trying to get them to sit and pay attention in your class, that's going to be hard to do, because A, their attention span is only so little, and also they don't have their basic needs of security. So they're always on the go, always on the lookout for danger. Listening to the lesson is not of their priority. So I hope this helps to kind of just at least help you understand in the classroom setting. But the takeaway point here is the attention span you're working with, and changing things up, knowing that a 2-year-old only has 5 minutes before you lose them. Maybe we'll learn a song for 5 minutes, then we'll move on to something else after a break for 5 minutes, and we'll do something else. And then learning basic needs, encouraging, empowering, and helping parents to understand these steps as well. Any questions? Any thoughts?
What would be like if a kid is like acting up and not paying attention, what should we do?
That's a good question. So I'm going to talk more about that next time, but I'll give you a little bit of a start. So usually when kids act up, it's for 3 reasons. The first reason is they don't know right from wrong, and that could be based on their age, right? So if they don't know right from wrong, that's pretty easy. We can teach them, right? In a nice, respectful way. Ya habibi, or adhena, sit like this. This is how we behave in church. There's no eating in the church, things like that, right? We can simply just kind of guide them and gently teach them. But that's the first problem. It's the easy problem. The second problem is a little harder. They know right from wrong, but they want to get your attention. And the only way they get your attention is when they're doing something wrong. So this one's a little bit tricky. And then the last one is they know right from wrong. They don't care about your attention. In fact, they don't care about anything at all. So that one's super hard. So let's go through those a little bit. So the first one is they don't know right from wrong. Easy, just teach them. B, they know right from wrong, but when they're doing something right, they don't have your attention. So they do something wrong because it gets your attention. So how can you deal with that one?
By giving them attention when they're doing something good.
Exactly. Focus on positive attention and kind of ignore the bad behavior. Let it go a little bit and encourage the good behavior. Unless they're like really, really little and, they're doing something dangerous, like, poking another kid with a pencil or putting, hand in the fascia or something. Obviously, you have to pay attention and make that stop for safety, right? But for the most part, you want to make sure that you give them positive attention. Do you guys know how many like kids have these little buckets, we all do, that your attention needs met. And we have, one negative comment or one negative attention, focused on attention. You need 10 positive things to equal that one negative thing. So if we keep telling a kid, "Ya habibi اقعد انت ليه ما بتقعدش ساكت, you talk too much, you move too much," all this is impacting their self-esteem. So they need to hear 10 positive messages just to neutralize the one negative message, because that can really impact their self-esteem. So always connect before you correct and give positive messages too. Don't be so focused on the negatives without showing them the positives. And sometimes we can do that with the sandwich method. Have you heard of that? So it's kind of like, I love your energy. I love, your personality. You're so bubbly. But right now we need to sit down quietly. And then I'm going to ask you at the end to give us a heads up. So it's like a positive, you give the message, and then you end it with a positive. And just remember that it takes time and it takes practice. Nothing goes away overnight, but with time, things get better. The third problem is that they don't care. So this signals a relationship problem. And this could be the kid that we're talking about that comes from like an unhealthy home, or, they're being bullied or teased themselves at school. So maybe they're coming and, expressing all that anger in class, in Sunday school or in church. And so this is going to be super important. There's nothing you can do that's going to teach this kid anything because they don't care and they know right from wrong, but they're choosing to not care and not phase them. So really the point to do, the most important thing to do at this point is to connect with them, build the relationship with them, find something a hobby that they like or something they enjoy, and then try to connect with them on that level. If they enjoy basketball, maybe meet with them after church sometime to play basketball in the park. Or if they like ice cream, maybe do a visitation at home and bring them some ice cream and just hang out with them and get to know them. But work on building the relationship. Then you can work on correcting and uh, all that stuff. I think you guys remember my 8th grade class in St. Ebenoob and how crazy that class was, and they never settled down, and that was always hard to kind of keep them settled. And so sometimes we had to just stop, connect with them, make sure we visit them at home, build that relationship with them, and that made a huge difference. Now when they come to class, they have a little more respect for, to listen. They want to hear what you have to say because now there's a connection. Before it's like, I don't know you, lady, and I don't care.
I had a question.
Okay.
For example, for the kid that like doesn't care and doesn't really want to learn anything, how do we prevent them from becoming a distraction to the rest of the class?
That is such a good question. It really becomes about teamwork with servants. I'm going to tell you a story that I shared with some of the ecclesia servants last week. So I'm sorry if you guys are hearing it again. But one time I had a student in 1st grade. It was a 1st grade Sunday school class, and he was like the class clown. He made everybody laugh, and anything he said, the whole class just went out of control. And I'm walking by this class and I see this poor servant having a hard time by himself trying to control the classroom. So I go inside, and this is why I said it, teamwork is important, because as servants, if I just don't show up to church tomorrow and it's okay, there's somebody else who's going to do the lesson, I really leave them with so much pressure, and I leave them without a plan, and without action, right? Because it really does take teamwork, which is why, God sent them out two by two, right? And so he was trying to handle a class of 30 first graders by himself, and this kid could do circles around him and had control over the class. So he kept saying, my name is Garbage, and everybody would laugh. My name is Garbage, call me Garbage, and everybody would laugh. There's just no gaining control. And so I would, went in. I was like, okay, so if I got this, you kind of just try to give me a second. Let me see if I can pull him outside and talk to this kid. Ta'ale Habibi, yalla nruh barra. And he's like, no, my name's not Habibi, it's Garbage. And so everybody would laugh again. He refused to come with me outside. So I tried to remove him, wasn't working. So what do you think needed to happen? If you can't remove the problem, what do you do? What was he getting out of this?
Attention from everyone
You-
else.
Yes, exactly. So he was getting something, right? People only continue a behavior that works for them. So when we try to figure out how it's working for them, let me try to intervene with that, right? So if I can't remove him, what should I do?
I guess just control the rest of the class.
Yeah, I
somehow.
removed the audience. It's exactly what I did. I removed the audience. He didn't want to leave, so I made everybody else leave. And oh boy, he loved me that day. I was his favorite, I think, after that. But we thankfully had another servant who could take the rest of the class outside, and then that way we removed the audience. So now there's no stage for him to perform, right? Now it's just me and him sitting eye to eye. Now I can talk to him like, what's going on? Why do you seem like such a good kid? Why do you call yourself Garbage? And of course he was not happy and he didn't want to talk to me at all. And he just sat kind of, to himself. But afterwards, most important thing is you follow up with visitation. So I, tried to get to know him like, well, who's your favorite teacher? What's your favorite subject? What do you like to do? He didn't want to talk to me. Khalas, he shut down. He wasn't happy. And that's okay. But what ended up happening is I talked to his mom afterwards when she came to get him from Sunday school. And I was like, what's going on with, so and so, and why does he, call himself Garbage, and why, like, what's going on? And it turns out that his dad was really sick and going through cancer, and he was having a really hard time um, coping with that and dealing with that and understanding what that means. And obviously, I made a time to meet with them at home, and I went to visit him, and I made sure that, he knows that he's loved and appreciated, and just spend time with him, not going to his house to talk to his mom so that mom can complain or that I can complain, but this is just one-on-one interrupted time with that kid and me just to get to know him. And then we started building that relationship, and then things got better. So even if you have to act in a situation, just follow up with connecting, follow up with visitations, follow up with them throughout the week. Don't wait till Sunday to see them in your Sunday school class again before you make that connection. Now, I hope that it helps.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Now you